China just pulled off something that the entire semiconductor world said couldn't be done. Not this decade. Not without the one machine they've been banned from buying for years. And definitely not from a standing start, with the most powerful country on Earth actively trying to stop them. Yet here we are. A state-backed effort in Shanghai just started building a machine that the West was absolutely certain only one company on the planet could ever make. A machine so complex, so precise, so guarded, that controlling it meant controlling who gets to make advanced computer chips at all. For decades, that was the whole game. Whoever held this machine held the future. And China was locked out of it, completely. Until now. This video is going to break down exactly what they built, why the stock market wiped out tens of billions of dollars in a single afternoon when the news broke, and the one thing almost every headline about this story got completely wrong. No jargon, no confusing diagrams, just the real story. If you find this kind of deep dive useful, it genuinely helps to hit the like button. These videos take a huge amount of research to put together, and every like helps more people find them. Alright, let's get into it. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the rule that ran the chip world for the last 40 years. And it comes down to one company most people have never heard of. Their name is ASML. They're based in a small town in the Netherlands called Veldhoven. You will almost never see their logo on a product you own. And yet, without them, the phone in your hand, the laptop you're watching this on, the servers running the internet itself, none of it exists in the form you know. Because ASML makes the machines that print computer chips. Not the chips, the machines that make the chips. And for the most advanced chips on Earth, they don't just lead the market, they are the market. When it comes to the cutting-edge tool called an EUV machine, ASML's share isn't 90%, it's 100%. Every single advanced chip in the world, from Apple, from Nvidia, from everyone, is printed by a machine that came out of that one Dutch town. Think about how strange that is. One company, in one country, decides who on the planet is allowed to make the most important technology of our era. That is a staggering amount of power to sit in one place. And for 40 years, nobody seriously challenged it. It felt permanent, unbreakable, a law of nature. And that's exactly what made it the perfect weapon. Because starting in 2019, the United States government began pulling that lever. Washington pressured the Netherlands to stop selling China the most advanced machines. First, the top-tier EUV tools were blocked completely. Then, step by step, even some of the older machines got restricted too. The message was simple. You want to build the future? You have to come through us. And we're saying no. So China was left with a wall. On one side, the machines they needed. On the other side, them, cut off, with a domestic chip industry that ran on tools it could suddenly lose at any moment by a decision made an ocean away. That's a terrifying position to be in. And here's the thing about backing an entire nation of engineers into a corner. Sometimes they find a door in the wall that everyone swore was solid. Then, in July of 2026, the number came out, and it moved markets in minutes. A report revealed that a state-backed company in Shanghai had quietly begun mass-producing its own advanced lithography machine. The company is tied to a group of Chinese firms, including one linked to Huawei. And they weren't talking about a prototype gathering dust in a lab. They were talking about real machines, headed to real factories. The first units are going to China's biggest chip makers, names like SMIC, Huahong, and a memory company called CXMT, to be tested on actual production lines. The plan is modest on paper. Around 5 machines this year, roughly 20 next year. That's tiny next to ASML, which ships well over 100 of these a year. So why did the market panic? Because the moment the news hit, ASML stock dropped as much as 8% in a single session. Nearly $44 billion in value evaporated. Let me put that in perspective. $44 billion is more than 4 times all the revenue ASML expects to make in China this entire year. Investors weren't reacting to 5 machines. They were reacting to what 5 machines mean. That the wall has a door in it after all. And other chip equipment companies, the ones that make the etching and inspection tools, they got dragged down too, all falling together in the same afternoon, because everyone suddenly asked the same question. If China can build the hardest machine, what can't they build? So let's actually understand what this machine does. Because once you get it, the whole story clicks into place. Picture printing a photograph. But the photograph is a city, and the city is smaller than a grain of sand. That's essentially what chip making is. You have a blank silicon wafer, and you need to print an unimaginably tiny, unimaginably detailed circuit pattern onto it. Billions of components, all in the right place, all connected. How do you print something that small? You use light. You shine light through a kind of stencil, and that light carves the circuit pattern onto the wafer. It's like a projector casting an image onto a screen, except the image is a microscopic blueprint and the screen is silicon. Now here's the catch, and it's the whole ballgame. The smaller the features you want to print, the shorter the wavelength of light you need. Try to draw a fine, detailed line with a thick marker, and it comes out blurry. You need a sharper tip. In chip making, light is the marker tip. And the machine that produces the sharpest possible light, the EUV machine, is the one China is banned from. That's the top tier, the finest tip on Earth. The machine China just built is one step down. It's called immersion DUV. It uses a slightly longer wavelength of light, a slightly thicker marker if you like. But here's the clever trick in the name: immersion. They run the light through a thin layer of purified water right at the surface of the wafer. Because light bends and tightens when it passes through water, that layer effectively sharpens the marker tip without changing the light itself. It's the same reason a straw looks bent in a glass of water. China figured out how to bend light in their favor. And with that thicker marker plus some very clever techniques, you can still draw remarkably fine circuits. Not the absolute finest, but far, far better than anyone expected China to manage on their own. Now here's what almost every headline got wrong. And this is where I have to be honest with you, because the internet turned this into something it isn't. A lot of coverage made it sound like China just cracked the crown jewel and matched ASML. They did not. This is not the EUV machine, the top-tier tool. This is the generation below it. Immersion DUV is impressive, genuinely. But it's a machine ASML has been selling for years. China didn't leap ahead of the West. They caught up to where the West was a while ago, on a machine they were locked out of. And the scale gap is enormous. 5 machines this year. ASML ships well over 100 of just this type annually, and they've been refining them for over a decade. China's version, by most accounts, still lags in reliability, in speed, in precision. Some of its critical parts reportedly still come from Japan. So if you saw a headline screaming that ASML is finished, that headline was selling you a fantasy. But, and this is the turn, don't let the skeptics talk you all the way back down either. Because catching up to a machine you were told you could never even touch is not nothing. It cracks the story that China simply cannot do this. And that crack is what actually scares the people paying close attention. It's not about this year's 5 machines. It's about the trajectory. Not long ago, serious analysts predicted China wouldn't have a commercial version of this tool until the mid-2030s. That prediction just became garbage years early. So, can they actually do it at scale? Can they turn 5 shaky machines into 50 reliable ones? Honestly, nobody knows yet. And that's the part worth sitting with. Building one machine that works in a controlled setting is a completely different thing from building a fleet that runs day and night in a real factory without breaking down. In this industry, the gap between a working prototype and a dependable production tool is where most dreams quietly die. There's also the question of yield. Yield means how many of the chips you make actually come out good instead of defective. A machine that prints beautifully once but ruins half the wafers on a production line isn't a product. It's a science experiment. And there's a political wildcard sitting right on top of all this. There's a bill moving through the US. Congress, called the Match Act, designed to block China from buying or servicing exactly these kinds of machines from ASML. But think about the trap that creates. If China can now build its own version at home, then those restrictions might not squeeze anything at all. You can't cut off a supply the other side no longer needs from you. Every wall you build becomes one more reason for them to build the thing themselves. So where does this actually land? The announcement is real, the engineering is real, and the outcome is genuinely unknown. Anyone telling you they're certain how this ends, in either direction, is guessing. Because this was never really about one machine. Step back and look at the pattern. Because that's the part that should stick with you. China gets cut off from advanced chips, so they push to build their own chips. They get cut off from Google software, so Huawei builds its own phone operating system. And now they get cut off from the machines that make the chips, so they start building the machines too. Every single restriction, meant to hold them back, became a reason to build the exact thing they were denied. That's a blueprint. And blueprints don't stay in one country. Other nations are watching this happen right now. Nations nervous about depending on any single foreign power for the technology their entire economy runs on. And what they're learning is simple. Being cut off doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning. Once one country proves the wall has a door, everyone else stops asking if it's possible and starts asking whether they want to walk through it too. That's the real story here. Not 5 machines in Shanghai. A shift in what the rest of the world now believes is possible. The old rule was that whoever controls the machine controls the future. What just cracked is the belief that only one place could ever hold it. So, I want to know what you think. Is China's machine a genuine turning point, the first real crack in a 40-year monopoly? Or is it a clever catch-up that still leaves ASML's real crown jewel completely untouched? Drop your take in the comments, because I think this one's a real debate. If this connected some dots for you, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this one. And the chip side of this story, how China's actually making the chips these machines print, that's the video coming up next.